Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time if you are new here. If you are new here, thank you very much for joining. And if you're coming back to watch, and you're a loyal Bex YouTube watcher, then again, thank you very much. Today's video is slightly different because I actually went live on Instagram with a really good friend of mine called Ellie, and she owns the brand Oneglobe 360. So go check her out on Instagram, check her out on YouTube. She's got a lot of travel content. She's got a travel blog, she vlogs, she's got ebooks, like she's doing it all. And we actually connected via Instagram, and we've done quite a few lives together in the past. A couple have actually posted. Well, I know one of them I've posted on my YouTube before, and she does a lot of work with with Mind charity, the mental health charity. So often does what she calls live for Mind, where she'll go live on Instagram for like an entire day and speak to different people about like travel or mental health and whatever, and raise money. So yeah, her whole company ethos, everything is amazing. So go check her out. Oneglobe 360. It's in the I've put it here, but it's also in the description if you need to go back to it, and when the video is finished, to check her out on all the different platforms. But yeah, basically we went live on Instagram, and she did a question and answer with me, asking me all about my experience of moving to the US, how I found it so far, any recommendations for people, all that stuff. So yeah, this video is basically about the chat that we had, her asking me questions about my experience here, all that, and me being very real and honest about how things have been so far. And a couple of people on Instagram asked questions as well. So enjoy. And if you do have any questions for obviously anything that's said, just write them in the comments, and then I'll get back to you, or maybe even get Ellie to reply from her YouTube account and get back to you as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Enjoy this video.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, I know it's been a while, hasn't it? You've moved to the other side of the world since we've last gone on an Instagram live. So yeah, how are you doing?
I am good, thank you. Yeah, just got back from taking the dog for a walk. It was 19 degrees, can't complain.
19 degrees. Oh my goodness. It was like raining all day here and it's cold, and yeah, I makes me want to go to the US right now if it's like 19 degrees. And it's like almost
Well, not everywhere in the US. Some parts of the US are currently like minus 20 degrees, so don't go there.
yeah. So you're in, I guess for anyone who's like tuning in, like can you tell us basically like where you are, what you're doing, why you decided to relocate to the US from the UK?
Yep, so I am currently in California, just below San Francisco in the Bay Area. Um, I moved here over 2 months ago now, which is crazy, 10 weeks, 11 weeks ago. And I decided to move here because I have always loved the US, especially California, because it offers everything I like: good weather, mountains,
Yeah.
and beaches. And everyone speaks English, but there's also a big mix of culture in California. There's a lot of South American, a lot of Asian American. Like there's a big mix of culture, which is great as well. And I am an au pair over here, so I wanted to try and get a visa for America. I looked at different options, and being an au pair is quite a fun and easily attainable way in. I'm really good with kids, so I thought, why not?
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, what's your day-to-day life like? You mentioned you're an au pair, you've got your business, you've got a lot going on. It looks like you're really busy, which is amazing. So what would you say like your average like day-to-day life is like? What do you do day to day?
That all depends if the kids are at school or not.
Yeah.
So last week the youngest boy wasn't at school because he only goes to preschool, like nursery.
Yeah.
And because he isn't able to be vaccinated yet because of his age, but if he's to travel outside of 150 miles, he has to isolate. And because last weekend was a long weekend, it was President's weekend, my host family went away and I went to Portland. You might have seen.
Yeah.
Because they travelled to Legoland, which is like more than 150 miles, he had to be off school. So last week I spent the whole day with him. We went to some museums and some fun stuff, and spent the whole day with him going to parks. But when they're at school, like this week, I wake up in the morning, make them their lunches and have breakfast and stuff, take them to school, and then between 8:30 and 3:30, 4:30, depending if they've got any after school clubs, I do what I want. So go to the
Yeah.
gym, work on my business. I was studying. I am studying, but I have to study as part of my visa. So it's like a work travel visa, so J1 visa. I have to study as well. I have to do per year either 6 credits or 72 hours, depending if you go to like a college or what's the word? Community school kind of thing. So I'm doing Italian on Thursday evenings because I was learning Italian on Duolingo over lockdown. And when I looked at some courses to do, Italian came up, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do Italian because Duolingo is great, but after a while it gets a bit repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also doing online, professional communications and marketing for business,
Yeah.
which I thought was great with everything that I want to try and do with my life. I had to unfortunately move that class to the fall semester, so the autumn term, because now that I'm going with my family on their spring break, I will miss 4 sessions, and we're not allowed to miss any more than 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I would be missing too many sessions to continue the class because I've been missing the final exam.
Yeah.
So I've moved it to the full semester instead. So when September comes around, I'll pick that class back up. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll have class during the day, like from like 9 till 12.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I can go to the gym, take the dog for a walk, just sit and watch Netflix. I have to do the laundry and like make sure the kids' stuff is all clean and everything. But yeah, it really depends on the day.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds like you've got so much flexibility with your role as an au pair, but also working in your business, going to the gym, traveling as well, which of course is like really important to you.
Yeah, and the gym as well. I love the fact, to me, one of the first things I do when I move somewhere is join a gym.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that flexibility you have like sounds really good. And I guess when you were thinking of relocating to the US, was that one of the most important things, that you could have a life that allowed you to have a job as like an au pair, but also work on your business, have a social life, go to the gym? I guess that flexibility is something everyone's looking for. Is that something that really drew you to that opportunity that you now have in the US?
Yeah, 100%. Like I'd always want a good lifestyle when I move somewhere. Like I have this isn't the first country I've lived in. I lived in Canada. I lived in New Zealand. I was meant to go to Australia, but COVID. So I've still got the visa for that. I'll go eventually. But with America, my visa had a limit. So you, when you're an au pair, you can't activate your visa after you turn 27.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned 27 in a month. Well, end of this month, so March 30th, I turned 27. So I literally had, when I applied back in March last year, I had a year to like get my visa and get out here, or I wouldn't have been able to come.
Yeah.
So I decided to put Australia on the back burner, and I thought I could do that another time. But yeah, when I lived in all these different places, I always looked for that. And one of the reasons I didn't really like working on the cruise ship when I did that was because it was very limited. I couldn't just go for a walk. The work-life balance was completely off. I was working all the time, and I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that balance is definitely something that, when I came here, I was like, you know what, it's a very flexible job. I can do other things around it. Being an au pair, we're put into like a WhatsApp group with other au pairs in the area, so I knew that I'd be able to meet friends and stuff. And also, one thing I looked for when I looked for a family was having a car to use, because public transport in America isn't great, and it's nice when you're able to use the family's car so that you can go and do things on your weekends or on your evenings.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can be quite restricting. So I would say if anyone is looking at becoming an au pair, definitely ask those questions, because otherwise when you get here, if you haven't asked a question about having a car and you don't get one, it can change your experience quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you've travelled, you like to use your like weekends, for example, to travel. I know you went to Portland recently, I think. Yeah. You went to Portland. Can you tell us about like the opportunities you have to travel, and also where you've travelled so far? I know you've been like travelling around, which is really exciting. So yeah, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so as an au pair itself, you get 2 weeks vacation of your, so like not 14 days, just 10 days, but obviously the weekend. So 2 weeks vacation for yourself to book off and do whatever you want. Then any additional travel depends on if your host family go away and you don't go with them. So when I first got here in January, my host family had booked to go to an Airbnb like 3.5 hours south, just in California, but they booked it because basically I was meant to come out here in June, July last year, but it took me ages to get a visa because of the pandemic. So I didn't manage to get out here until December. It was going to be early January so that I could have met my nephew, but when Omicron hit, I was like, okay, I'm going to leave earlier. So anyway, they booked this trip to go to this Airbnb before they knew I was coming, because when I actually decided to come, it was a bit of a last minute, got my visa, I'm going to come, you know. So they said I can have that weekend to do whatever I want. So I took the weekend to go to Colorado for 4 days, which was super fun. And then the last weekend, when I went to Portland, again, it was a long weekend. They planned to go to Legoland. They rescheduled it 4 times because of the pandemic. So again, they said, you know, we haven't planned for you to come with us. So again, you can have the free long weekend. So I went to Portland for the weekend. Spring break, when I've decided to go with them on their trip and we're going back to Europe, I could have stayed here and done some exploring around the US, but I thought it was such an amazing opportunity to go to Europe with them. If you travel with your host family, you know, you're part of the family, so you're paid for anyway, which is, you know, a bonus. And it's such an amazing opportunity to just go with the family and just do stuff together, because that's what you're here for. But yeah, if I didn't go, I would have had time off then, plus my actual this is additional to the 2 weeks that I actually, the minimum 2 weeks that I get, this would be additional. So say they go somewhere in the summer break, if I want to go with them, cool. If I don't, I could have that time. So yeah, it really depends on your family, how active they are with traveling, but the minimum time you get is 2 weeks vacation plus I think 2 days a week off.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds so cool. Obviously, with you loving travel as much as you do, it must be so amazing that you could be now living in the US, have that flexibility, and then go and travel around. In terms of
for sure.
recommendations that you have, like I've been to the US 3-4 times now, I think, and I've only really done like the East Coast and the West Coast. Have you got any recommendations for like your favorite states, your favorite cities? What would you recommend if you want to come to the US?
I mean, so far I've done 19 states. I'm trying to get to 25 by the end of my first year here. So I've got 6 more to do within this year, which I think is doable. But yeah, trying to get to 25. I would say my top state is California. I love it here. It just offers everything that I want. I love San Francisco as a city, which is why I've moved so close to it. I love New York City. That's also great. I really enjoyed, so I did a road trip from when I moved to Canada. We flew into Toronto, but then did a road trip from Toronto to Vancouver via the US, because we got told that other than Banff and like BC, the middle part of Canada was a bit boring. So we decided to come through the US because we had a couple of friends in the Chicago area, and we drove through. I really enjoyed like South Dakota, Yellowstone, Wyoming, Montana. They were really like wilderness states, you know, really nice. So much wilderness, so much wildlife. And very American, like, you know, there's different types of American, because it's so big. You can go to California where it's very populated, and there's loads of beaches. It's a very blue sky. You can go to a state that's got literally no beach around, like Colorado. Yeah, it's got lakes, but it hasn't got a single bit of ocean. You know, it's very cold. So it's very different in each state. So I definitely think it's good to go to a few to get a full experience. But yeah, I love New York City, love San Francisco, love the northern mountain states. I'm yet to do any of the southern ones, like Texas or like Louisiana and Georgia, but they are on my list. Florida's a nice one as well if you like tropical beaches. Miami, like the Florida Keys.
Yeah,
it's really nice there.
Someone just asked a question actually about Florida. Someone said, have you done Florida? So you say you haven't been to Florida before? Yeah,
I've done Miami and the Florida Keys, so like all the way down to Key West. That was really nice, but I'd like to go back and do like the East Coast of Florida, like Tampa and that area. And of course I'd love to do Disney Orlando, because I love Disney and Harry Potter.
Yeah. Amazing. I've never been to Florida before, but I'd love to. My auntie and uncle are actually at the moment doing like a road trip all around Florida, which I'm very jealous about because it looks amazing. No. But yeah,
Florida, you get like the tropical storms, so you know it would be. When I was in Miami, I sat on the beach. It was lovely and warm. Next thing you know, it was raining. It was warm rain, but I was like, I can't sit on the beach whilst it's raining. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it sounds like the weather is like switches like that. I mean, I guess like you said, America is, each state is like a different country in terms of the climate, the culture, the food. Like it's just so different. I guess that's what makes America amazing. But also, like you said, you've got different weather, and you kind of, I guess for you wanted to pick somewhere that was like, I guess, really sunny, had beaches, and for everyone different, right? They want like different priorities.
And I love mountains, and like I did 2 years in Canada with the mountains, year and a half in New Zealand with the mountains, and California does have mountains as well, which I love it, but the mountains are like a 3.5 hour drive away, the bigger ones. So there are smaller ones around, but you know, I kind of moved here for the sort of beach life to experience it, because I haven't done it before. So the mountains here aren't as, you know, extravagant as going to like Montana or you know, Grand Teton in the northern states, or like Canada, for example. But with that comes really cold climates in the winter, very uncertain weather, and I was kind of over that. I know that I like sunshine, so
Yeah.
it hasn't rained here since January,
Yeah.
the first, start of January. So
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing. And in terms of then, like, I guess, talking more about life in the US and things like budgeting, how much things cost, if you compare it to like the UK, for example, well, two parts of the question. What's it like compared to the UK in terms of costs of things? But also, have you got any tips for anyone looking to travel to the US on a budget?
So that's a hard one because I live in California, which is the most expensive state in the
Yeah.
US. So it is quite pricey here. There are, of course, areas that are cheaper. There are, of course, ways that you can do it on a budget. When I first came to San Francisco, it was on my way back to New Zealand in 2019. After my sister got married, I went home for the summer and I flew back. I'd wanted to go to San Francisco for ages. I'd been to LA, I'd done Coachella, so I loved California, but I'd never done like San Francisco, but I heard it was amazing. And I kept meeting loads of people when I worked at Bungee Jump who were from San Francisco, and I was like, this is a sign, I have to go. So I booked on my way back to New Zealand to fly via San Francisco, just because it breaks the flight up a little bit. Rather than doing like a 33-hour flight in one stint, I could break it up.
Yeah.
And I stayed in a hostel called the Amsterdam Hostel in the center of San Francisco, which was, I think it worked out at like $30 a night or something like that. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, it wasn't the most spectacular place, but for me it was great. I met some friends there. We hung out together. I walked pretty much everywhere around San Francisco. I did book a tour to go to the Muir Woods, which was over the Golden Gate Bridge, and you did the Muir Woods and Sausalito, and then I also did a tour to Yosemite as well. So they were the two like most expensive things that I paid money on. Oh, and Alcatraz, but you can book that when you're in actual San Francisco. And then some girls that I met in the hostel took me to Napa one day, so I sort of went with them, and it made it cheaper because there was loads of us and they were actually au pairs. So I think there's definitely ways you can like traveling anywhere, there's definitely ways you can do it cheaper if you're prepared to stay in a hostel, if you're prepared to cook for yourself some nights, or not eat in the most fancy restaurants. But California itself is quite an expensive state. So I think I would, in terms of advice, definitely just do a bit of Googling before you come and see like average prices of different states for like a regular meal, because it will complete, you could pay in, I don't know, Nebraska, I've never been there, but you could pay $10 for a main course, whereas in California you can pay 25. So it really, I would just do your Googling. Like the gas in Nebraska is probably costs like $3 a gallon. Again, don't know, this is just me guessing. In California it's currently $5 a gallon. So I would just do a bit of Googling, just see what's around, and don't forget that tax is added on after you pay, like when you pay, not before. So
I've never
tipping's really big here.
I've never understood the tax. Why don't they just add it on so you know the price there and then? I've never understood that.
I know, but also every state's got, sorry, say that again.
I know it's different in each state, but it could still be added on to like the displayed price, because you go to the till and then you think it's a certain price and then you actually don't know in reality how much it will actually cost. I've never understood that.
No. I don't get it. I don't get it either, to be honest. I just go with the flow. I'm like, oh yeah, this is. I thought it was $6. It's actually $7 because tax, and I still don't. But it's but yeah. So definitely Google the tax in each state because it's different, and don't forget tipping is massive here. Not just on going out for a restaurant. Tipping is massive on getting your hair done. Taxi drivers, delivery drivers, like anything that's a service, you tip for.
Yeah.
So
my next question was going to be about like the differences between the UK and the US. Do you think that's quite a big difference? We do have tipping here, but it's not as strong, I guess, here compared to the US. It's very much.
It's expected over here, whereas in the UK it's kind of just it's a nice thing to do. Whereas over in the US it's expected.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I've just been in Barcelona for the last month, and in Spain, in my experience, tipping is just not a thing. If anything, if you tip, they're like, oh, why are you giving me this? Like in my experience, people don't tip, it's not expected. But I know in the US, like we've just been saying, it is really expected, and if you don't, it's almost rude, and it's like as if you haven't had a good experience or something's been wrong. So I find that really interesting, like comparing different countries with things like tipping and stuff. But going back to about like comparing the UK and the US, in your experience, what have been like the most notable differences between life in the UK and then life in the US?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, the US and the UK are very similar. We do bounce off each other quite a lot. Obviously there's a few language words that we say differently, but most people know you know, like most of us know, if I've said I'm going on vacation in England, it's a holiday, or like a zucchini is a courgette, and you know, you sort of, not all the words that you know, but you kind of can understand each other. It's not like we can speak a completely different language, but there are a lot of personality differences. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I have met a lot of Americans that do understand sarcasm and do give it back and, you know, have a joke, but I feel like the UK is a very sarcastic banter language. Like we can easily say stuff and like joke around with each other and people just laugh it off. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know, because obviously sometimes you can really offend someone and think it's just a joke when actually it's not. But in the US, I feel like it's not as much of a thing. Like if you're quite blunt with someone because you're saying it in like a jokey way, they can get quite offended more because it's just not as much of a thing here. Also, I mean, work-life balance, again, I think people in the UK work a lot, but also in the US, it's very work. So I was saying I only get 2 weeks vacation. A lot of companies only give only give 2 weeks vacation. I think you can earn more, but I think the UK, the minimum you get is like 21 days to start, isn't it, or something? So like pretty much 4 weeks. So there is a very big work attitude here. And also I've noticed that I've always known this, but it's definitely since being here become more prominent, like more like realized, like homelessness in the US is quite in cities is very apparent. I feel like in the UK it is like we do see people that are homeless, but like in the US there are tents along the streets in every city you go to. Like there's parks just full of tents and homeless people will like be walking around. So it can make you feel a little bit nervous. Like obviously most of the time it's completely harmless, just in a very unfortunate situation, and you know, unfortunately have to live on the street. But I feel like if someone wasn't aware of that, they may come here and think it's like scary or think it's, you know, I don't know what the word is, but I feel like in the UK it's, you don't see it as much, you know.
Yeah, it must be so interesting to, I mean, obviously you've been in the UK, well, you were in the UK for a couple of years, weren't you? Like during the pandemic, you were living before, was it New Zealand before?
I was in New Zealand before, and then I was meant to go to Australia, but COVID pulled me back to the UK for almost 2 years.
Yeah, so it must be so interesting now to be living somewhere completely different. And I guess, did you experience any initial culture shocks? I know we've just talked that the UK and the US are very similar countries, but in the first like week or so, did you experience any culture shocks?
A little bit, not really, like nothing that I wasn't really expecting. Again, just like language, some words, and getting used to driving on the other side of the road again. Different road signs. So they have a lot of stop signs here rather than roundabouts. They'll have like a flashing red signal, which means you've got to stop. And they'll have like just a few different signals that I had to get used to. Like I've driven on this side before, like you can turn right on a red light here, even as long as there's no one crossing on the crossing, you can turn right, which again in the UK isn't a thing. I already knew this from when I lived in Canada, but that was quite a few years ago, so I had to sort of refresh my memory. But I think the biggest thing I struggled with when I first arrived wasn't really sort of cultural as much. It was I don't know, like it was more loneliness, because I'd never moved somewhere before and lived with a family. Like I lived with a family in Canada when I did a bit of nannying there, but I did that halfway through living there, so I'd already moved there, made friends, and then when I needed to move out of my house, I ended up becoming a live-in nanny for a few months, but I already had friends. Whereas here, as much as I had the WhatsApp chat with other au pairs and I'd met a couple, obviously being an au pair, everyone's busy and everyone's lifestyle's busy, and I'm a bit older now, like I'm 20, almost 27, whereas Canada I was 20 when I moved there. So trying to make friends and, you know, live a normal life was a little bit hard initially. And I also, because I was back in the UK for so long, for almost 2 years, I did miss the UK a little bit, because I'd, you know, started got my life kind of back there, not fully. I always knew I was leaving again, but you know what I mean. I had developed friends and a life, and I was keeping busy every weekend, and I came here and I was a bit like, but you know, it's been 2 months now, and I'm definitely feeling a lot more at home. Like I'm able to budget a bit more, because when I first moved here I was like, it's so expensive, like what am I going to do? But I've started to budget a bit more and just get into a routine, so it just took a little bit longer, I think, to kind of get comfortable. But at the same time, I think I'd forgotten how hard it actually was to move somewhere, because it's not easy. It's, you know, it takes a lot of putting yourself out there to make friends and do stuff, and make an effort with people, which sometimes you don't want to do, but you have to do it in order to make friends. Otherwise, you're not going to know anyone.
Yeah. And I know we've
And I'm
both
sure you can relate from Barcelona as well.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Like those first couple of days, you're sort of thinking, oh my goodness, it's a new place. Luckily, I lived in Barcelona last summer as well for 3 months. So going again this time in January, I kind of had a bit of a head start in terms of I had friends already that I met from last summer, and I knew the city and I was familiar with the city. So it was definitely easier this time around. But when I moved last summer for the first time, it very much is like you need a couple of days just to sort of like figure where everything is in the city, how you get from A to B, and the metro system, and where the supermarket is. Just those like parts of like day-to-day life that you need to just adapt to because you're just in a different country, a different city. It was a different language. I know I studied Spanish at university, so that aspect was okay for me, but I'm not fluent by any means. So overcoming that as well, making sure I could communicate with people in a supermarket or in a taxi or whatever it may be. There's always, I guess, challenges on a day-to-day basis when you move somewhere new for the first time.
Yeah.
But I think that's so rewarding as well when you can overcome those challenges. You get settled into life in a different place. I think that's so rewarding, and it's a big achievement.
Yeah.
Move somewhere completely different is a really big deal. And there are, I'm sure, hard times, but also plenty of really good experiences. And it looks like you've had some amazing experiences so far. And one thing I wanted to also sort of talk about is we both have talked a lot about mental health through Life of Mind and on other lives before. How have you looked after your mental health whilst moving to a completely different country, on the other side of the world? What measures have you put in place to ensure that you're like looking after your mental health and prioritizing self-care?
Well, a big thing for me, as I've mentioned before, is fitness. I joined the gym just after Christmas because I arrived, went to Lake Tahoe skiing for a week, which was awesome. Then it was Christmas and New Year, so I was like, oh, whatever. And then I joined the gym in January. Gym is a really big thing for me. I love it. It keeps me sane and keeps me sort of centered and grounded. And if I'm ever like stressed out, I just love going to the gym. Going out for walks and going exploring. So there were some days when, like I said, I felt a bit lonely, felt a bit like, what am I doing? Have I made the right choice? Just because it's hard when you first move somewhere. And my family are great and they've been really supportive, but it's still just, like I said, a hard adjustment, especially the older you get. I feel like because I'm in two minds about, like, I love traveling and I love going places, but also when you see all your friends, everyone start to settle down and create that and have like one friendship group and have like a very not easy life, but they've all of like they're all in one place, whereas when you are a little bit older and you see that, and as much as I don't want that, I want to travel, it does get harder because people in your age group have also got that marriage, already got friends, so you're like, hello, like, talk to me, but they're like, I've already got my friendship group, so it can be a bit like hard there. There were definitely some days when I would just call family because I felt feeling a little bit lonely, but then I'm also quite good. I've worked on over the years with traveling and just in general, I've worked on my mindset quite a lot. So like if I was feeling down, I'd say to myself, this is only temporary. I would write a list of the things that I want to do whilst in the US to get me excited rather than feeling sad about being here. I would take my book into the garden and read and immerse myself in a story rather than thinking in my own thoughts. So just do things that would get me out of my own head, because I think a lot of mental health is just being inside your own head too much in a negative way. So I would do things, journaling. I've got my journal here about all my US things that I've done so far and what I want to do, and just did things that would take everything out of here and put it elsewhere into something more productive.
I love that. I think that's a really good way of explaining what a lot of struggles with mental health can be, is that you are just, in your own head. And if you can put that into like journaling or reading a book, like if you can take sort of that into something that is self-care. I mean, we've talked about self-care before, and self-care is different for everyone. Some people love journaling, some people love going to the gym, some people love meditation, yoga, spending time with friends, like whatever it may be, it's different for everyone. But it's good that you've identified those things that can help you when you do have those down days, and help you look at the amazing experiences that you've had so far.
And also like not like I wasn't scared to, like, if I was feeling a bit down, I'd ring my family and saying, not for my friends, because that's what friends are there for. Like if my friends message me saying that they're not feeling great, I'd be there for them and vice versa. And it's not like I'm not the kind of person that I'm usually quite up and happy person. So if I was like, I'm not feeling that great, they'll be there like, you know, it's temporary, and like just actually speaking about how you're feeling rather than just just holding it in and just saying. On my YouTube, for example, I try and be very honest and like about my whole experience even now. So I've been documenting my process about how I got my visa, plus every single week that I've been living here I've been explaining how I've been feeling, what I've been up to, and I've tried to be really real on my YouTube. So some weeks I was like, I haven't done a lot this week, I've been feeling a little bit sad, to be honest, I've been missing people, I've been a bit, don't know how I'm gonna like sort of make friends, and I was honest about it. I didn't pretend that it's been all, you know, great and rainbows and butterflies, because as much as I love California, it has been great, and every week I've done something awesome. There have been hardships too, and I've been honest about that, because I don't want someone to move here thinking that, oh, Bex moved there and lived an amazing life. Well, yeah, but there are struggles, and you have to accept that and be honest about it.
Yeah. We just had a lovely message from Sonia. Loving this chat, girls. Thank you, Sonia. It's really cool. Like a stream of people checking, sort of coming in throughout. So it's really cool.
Well, yeah, I've actually had a lot of. I'm really glad that I've been doing my YouTube with all the videos, because I've been having a lot of people reach out to me saying that, like, it's really inspired them to look into moving. It's been something they've wanted to do for a while but never known how, and that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
And people have said it's been really helpful, like figuring out the visa process, and it's been really helpful, like seeing how I've been getting on. So hearing people say that really makes me enjoy doing it more, because I quite enjoy making the videos anyway. It's quite like a documentation to look back on, but hearing how it's inspiring people and stuff, I'm like, oh, you know what, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's so nice. And I feel the same with my YouTube as well. You know, we're both on the same page, and that we're both documenting our travel experiences on YouTube. And it's not just a nice thing for, you know, for us individually to look back on. You know, in years time, you'll look back on your time in California and you can actually see what you did and how you were feeling. Mm-hmm. The same with me. I've just daily vlogged in Barcelona, and I can look back at every single day and what I did. And it's not just, I guess, for us, but for people as well that we're sharing it with, and getting those comments and positivity, and that people are feeling inspired to travel themselves because of videos and stuff. That's yeah, such an important thing. And you touched upon the visa. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the visa for anyone who's watching now, or I'll save it as an IGTV afterwards, so people are tuning in afterwards, and who are sort of curious about the visa process for going to the US. Could you kind of explain in sort of the best, I guess there's a lot to it, but kind of the step-by-step process that you went through to get the visa?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend for anyone who wants to know the full cost and the full process to head to my YouTube, because I have got a video on there, but it's like 20 minutes long, and obviously I can't talk to you now for 20 minutes about the whole process, because we've already been talking for about 20 minutes, so people would probably get bored. But it is on I did document the whole process on my YouTube. But yeah, it was definitely the hardest visa I've had to get. Like, Canada was the first country I went to, and that took me about 3 months to get the visa, because I had to do, like, there was 3 different processes. The first one was applying for the visa, the second one was getting the documentation, and the third one was filling out this last form, like to verify that you're fit and like well enough to go to Canada. But that was years ago now. They've changed it a little bit since then. New Zealand was really easy. I think my friend actually applied, like helped me apply for it, because I was on a cruise ship at the time and I had limited signal, limited Wi-Fi. So I was sort of like sending her the details through, and she was putting them into the system for me, because I couldn't do it on the Wi-Fi, and that came through like that. Same as Australia, it just came through so easily. And I always knew that America was going to be the hardest one, because I'd heard from other people, and they don't offer the working holiday visa the way that Canada, New Zealand and Australia do, where you can go there and get any job. You have to either study or be sponsored by someone that's going to allow you to work over there, which makes it a bit more difficult, because you have to either pay for study or find someone that's going to sponsor you. Which is why when this au pair opportunity came up, and they helped you with the visa, you know, you had a family over here that you'd connect with, and they would sort of basically sponsor you, and you'd have accommodation, and it ticked all the boxes, you know. So the company I used is called Cultural Care Au Pair. I know they've got a lot of au pairs from South America and Europe, but I don't know exactly what countries. So depending on what country you're from, there may be different au pair companies out there. I applied through them, made my profile online, and basically put like a picture of myself, all my skills, my childcare experience, and you know why I make a great au pair. I did a little video of like, hi, I'm Bex, and I'd be a good au pair because, and loads of stuff on there. But then from that, I would then look at families would look at me on basically like I guess Tinder or like, you know, some kind of dating network. Families can look at au pairs and they can request a match, and then they can start talking to you. And then if you get along well and you like each other, you can match back, and that's your chosen family. You can, for example, I had a couple of au pair friends that, because of the wait for a visa was so long, their families had to unmatch them and try and find someone that could come sooner. So sometimes that you can get dematched and all that, but luckily my family were great. They waited for me and it's worked out really well. But after the match process happened, I reached out to my local cultural care advisor and said, I've got a match, what's the next step? And then I got sent loads of documentations for all the forms I had to fill out in order to apply for a visa. So I had to send all these forms off, and then once the forms were sent off, I could then book an appointment. But originally my appointment wasn't until February the 4th, just gone, so 2022. And I was like, okay, cool, because the pandemic. But then the guy, my UK cultural care advisor, was saying, don't worry, like often appointments will just pop up, so keep checking. So I kept checking, hoping that one would come up earlier. And by that point I was like, I'm going to go by July. Like, I found an appointment. I was being really positive, but didn't find an appointment, unfortunately. Couldn't get an appointment until November 28th. So for that I had to go to the embassy in London, take all my forms that I'd filled out all these forms, sent them off. They'd sent some back for me. Had to take all these forms with me to London, as well as my passport. I had to pay for that appointment. I also had to get a medical before I went to the appointment, just to say that I was fit and healthy to travel to the US, and that I hadn't got tuberculosis. The tuberculosis test cost £110, and I had to go to London for that. I had to travel to London. The medical I had to get from my doctors was £75, plus the visa appointment was like over 100. So there's a lot of costs involved, which I explained on my YouTube. So I went to London, had the appointment. They took my visa, my passport off me there and then, because you get told there and then, basically, approved, give us your passport, and then they stamp the visa into it and send it back to you in the post within like a week or 2 weeks, depending on how busy they are. And then once I'd got all of that stuff back, I then obviously had to make sure I had a PCR test, and I took all my visa and everything with me. But there was quite a lot of forms to fill out, a lot of things you had to get, like the medical and all that. It was a very long process. It was the most forms and the most requirements that I had to fill out, and like go into the visa appointment and at the embassy, which I did once before when I worked on the cruise ship, to get a C1 visa, like a crew visa, a crew member visa. But I didn't really do the forms I had to fill out for this one, was all me, whereas because I was working for a company on the cruise ship before, I had to go to the visa appointment in person, but I didn't have to do any of the other stuff really. So this one was definitely the most confusing, which is why I was really glad that I had the cultural care advisor to help me, because otherwise I would have had no idea.
Oh my goodness, it sounds so complicated, but I guess when you get that approved and you know you can go over there, it must be such an amazing feeling, obviously, when you go through something so complicated and difficult. And I went through a visa situation to go to Barcelona, because obviously at Brexit we now need visas to stay for longer than 90. So basically the main reason why I was only in Barcelona last summer for 3 months rather than 6 or 7 was because I couldn't get an internship visa, which is what I needed to stay for longer than 90 days. So I'm on my year abroad at the moment, because I study history and Spanish at university. So it's a part of my year abroad. So I'm not alone in having missed out on many months in well, not just Barcelona, but people on their year abroads right now, students who can't get the visas needed for things like internships and British Council, like teaching English abroad. So Brexit has definitely made that process for us now, British people going to Europe, more complicated if it's for anything longer than 90 days. So I can very much sympathise with your visa process. It's something that is very long and often costs a lot of money. Get to the place, it's such a rewarding thing. Although I didn't get my visa, I was still able to go for less than 90 days, so I still got to go. And it all sort of feels worth it when you can actually get there in the end.
And I would say as well, like, to people, it seems daunting trying to get your visa, and there's a lot of things to fill out, but don't let it scare you. Just take it a step at a time. And there are people that reach out to someone that that's either already done it, or reach out to like a company that could maybe help you. You may have to pay a little bit of money for it sometimes, but like, there's people that have done it before. You're not the first person to ever do it, so just work with the process, and it is worth it, even though it can seem a little bit daunting initially. Like when I go back to Europe and for spring break, I have to get like one of these forms signed. One of the forms I had to bring with me, I had to get that signed so that I can then travel and leave it, travel and come back again.
Yeah.
I have to put another form off to get me back into the US. So I have to take 3 or 4 forms with me just to leave the US, because I'm fine to leave, but it's getting back in because I'm on a visa. They have to check everything and say like, when's the visa up until, can she travel on this visa? So there's loads of forms I still have to fill out just to leave and come back again.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds so complicated. But your trip, is it in the summer? You said no, coming up, is it?
It's spring break, so it's from the 26th of March till the 10th of April.
Amazing.
So very soon.
Very soon. Oh my. So what are your plans for being in the US? How long is your visa? What are your, I guess, future plans? Are you hoping to stay in the US for a couple of years, or is it just going to be 1 year? What are your plans at the moment?
So my visa is initially a year,
Yeah.
but I can extend it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I can extend it for a year. Even though I hit 27 when I'm here, that's fine, and you can still extend.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to extend more than 6 months because I've got loads of plans in summer of 2023. It's my mum's 60th, and some travel plans like Costa Rica that I was meant to go to work with sea turtles, and a few other trips that got postponed due to the pandemic. I've now postponed till 2023.
Yeah.
Plus my mum's birthday and stuff, and because I can't just take 3 months off and go home or go traveling, because I don't get the vacation time on being an au pair, or most jobs, to be honest. I unfortunately won't be able to extend longer than a year and a half. But I would love to. Like, California is a place that I would love to live. It offers everything that I want. So hopefully there'll be a way that I would be able to get another visa at some point, or get sponsored by a different job, or figure something out. But now that I'm here and I've got a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the year and a half, I can then make an informed decision if it's a place that I do actually want to chase and try and get back here to live. Because I still want to do my Australian visa, because I don't want to waste it. I still want to do that. But with California being not too far from the UK, like it's 11 hours, but it's not 20 hours or 30 hours like Australia and New Zealand are. It's a bit more feasible in terms of getting home and seeing family, but also having a great lifestyle. So, and at the end of my visa, we get 1 month travel, so you get a 1 month travel extension that you can use before leaving the US to do whatever you want in that month, and then you have to leave. So you basically, your maximum you can get is 25 months, because 2 years plus your travel month.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, it sounds really, really exciting, and I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me on the live today. It's been so good to hear about your experience moving to the US. I can't believe it's been like 2 months for you so far. I think it's 10 weeks. It's like, even just from watching everything on your social media, it just has flown by. And it's been really to watch your experience. And big shout out to your YouTube channel as well. Everyone should go and subscribe. I saw you hit 100 subscribers yesterday.
I think I'm on 105 now. I got 105 more just came. I was like, yay! So I'm going for 200 by the end of March. So guys, head over to my YouTube. It's literally just Bex Eaton, or go to my profile and it's in my Linktree link in my bio. But get me to this 200 by end of March.
Amazing. Well, it's so good for, like, obviously we both are documenting our travels on YouTube, and it's so good to like see people's different experiences and different countries. So I will for sure be keeping checking out all your videos. But just a massive thank you. Stay in touch. Let me know how you continue getting on in the US, and I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.